Now is the time for assignment. So in this lecture, I'm going to give an assignment and I'm going to explain you the requirements of this assignment. I want you to give a shot and I want you to describe the API with the help of OpenAPI specification based upon the requirements that I'm going to share. So like you can see here, as of now, we have only one get path with the name categories, and this supports query param, which is of type optional. So now what I want to do is we can build a new path that supports the path parameters. Just like how we can have query params, we can also have path parameters. So I can share more details about what do I mean by path params. So whenever we are trying to adopt the path params, how our API path is going to look like is, so this is a sample URL which is adopting the path params. Like the highlighted URL is the base URL, and after that this is the API path name like categories, and after categories I can have a path param value like 101 or 102. It can be any dynamic value that my consumers can send. So what I have to do is, in order to describe this kind of API paths, I need to mention a placeholder after categories, and I need to describe that placeholder, what is the value that they can send, what is the data type of that value. So all these details we need to describe with the help of OpenAPI specification. And believe me, this is super simple if you already followed the previous lectures. So what we have to do is, we just have to introduce one more path. So whenever we are trying to introduce one more API path, please make sure you are in the same line where your slash categories started. Like you can see both my slash categories and the cursor right now in the same line. So here what I can do is I can introduce a new path saying that slash categories, and after that I need to give one more slash, and I need to mention a placeholder value with the name category ID. So this is just a placeholder name, and this name can be anything, but we just have to make sure the same placeholder name we are using inside the parameters configurations that we are going to do. So I hope you are clear. Like what as a next step you have to do is you just have to define the same get, summary, description. Under the parameters, instead of query, what you have to do is you just have to mention the path, because the valid values inside in is path, query, header, cookie. Query we already tried in the previous lectures. Now since we are trying to implement the path params as an input, you just have to mention the path as a value in the place of query, and remaining everything is going to same. In the response, instead of we returning an array of categories, we can return an object of category, because we always knows like for this kind of path where someone is sending the category ID, they'll always get only single category object but not the array of categories. So due to that reason, inside the responses, what you have to do is for 200 response code, you just have to define the schema as an object but not the array. So for the same, the solution is very simple. You just have to avoid this type, array and items. You can directly start with type as an object and you can explain the properties inside that object. So this is going to be super simple, but please note that whenever we are using the param as an value inside the parameters in field, we just have to make sure the required field is true. Like you just have to mention required as true, because that makes sense, right? Like whenever you're using path parameters inside your URL, the placeholder value should be a mandatory value. Otherwise, there is no meaning for your API path. So due to that reason, your OpenAPI specification also will throw an error saying that required is equal to true is mandatory for path input parameters. So this is an heads up that I want to give. So let me revert this required is equal to true here. This is not needed. So now I hope you are clear like what is the assignment. Please take your time and you can download this version of the file from the GitHub location, and on top of that try to describe a new API path that support path input parameters. So please put your efforts in solving this assignment. Even if you are facing 100 different of errors, don't worry, keep doing that and you will come to know 100 different ways how to overcome your OpenAPI specification problems. So in the process, you will become a master. And believe me, during my journey of OpenAPI specification, I have done thousands of mistakes. So don't get demotivated. In the next lecture, we can discuss the solution of this assignment. Thank you and bye.